Captain Lee Tae-young stood on the bridge of the Time's Eternal Spring asterisk, watching the stars drift past the viewport. His ship had been traveling through peaceful space for 3 weeks now, carrying supplies and diplomatic messages between human colonies. It was boring work, but he preferred boring. Boring meant safe. His communication officer looked up from her station. "Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from Haven Station." Tae-young nodded. "Put it through." The voice that came through was panicked. "This is Haven Station. We are under attack. Repeat. We are under attack by Vakthari warships. They came out of nowhere, and they're demanding we." The transmission cut to static. Tae-young felt ice form in his stomach. "Get me a visual. Now." The main screen flickered to life, showing Haven Station in the distance. The massive orbital platform hung above the colony world of New Jeju like a silver wheel. Over 2 million people lived there, humans who had left Earth to build new lives among the stars. But something was wrong. Ships surrounded the station. Big ships with dark hulls and weapons that glowed with charging energy. Vakthari vessels. Vakthari vessels. "They're powering weapons," his tactical officer said, his voice shaking. "Captain, they're going to..." Light filled the screen. Brilliant, terrible light. When it faded, Haven Station was gone. Just debris and fire spinning in the void where millions of people had been alive moments before. Tae-young gripped the armrest of his chair so hard his knuckles turned white. Around him, his crew sat in stunned silence. Some were crying. Others just stared at the screen in disbelief. "Sir," the communication officer whispered, "the Vakthari are broadcasting a message. They're sending it to all council channels. Play it." A Vakthari commander appeared on screen. He had 4 eyes and scales that shimmered blue-black under the lights of his bridge. His voice was cold and mechanical through the translator. "This was a demonstration," the Vakthari said. "Humanity will surrender 5 of their colony worlds to the Vakthari Empire within 10 standard days. If you refuse, more demonstrations will follow. This is not negotiable." Armor. The transmission ended. Tae-young sat in his chair, his mind racing. 2 million people. Gone. Just like that. And the Vakthari called it a demonstration. "Captain," his first officer said quietly, "what do we do?" "Set course for Council Station," Tae-young said. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. Flat, empty, maximum speed. The Time's Eternal Spring Times turned toward the heart of galactic civilization, leaving the graveyard of Haven Station behind. 3 days later, Ambassador Park Mina stood before the Galactic Council. The council chamber was enormous, with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Representatives from hundreds of species sat watching her. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked uncomfortable. A few looked annoyed that their schedules had been interrupted. Park Mina had been humanity's ambassador for 12 years. She had negotiated trade agreements and settled disputes. She had given speeches about cooperation and unity. She had always been polite and diplomatic. Not today. 2.1 million humans are dead, she said. Her voice echoed in the vast chamber. They were scientists and teachers, engineers and artists, parents and children. They died because the Vakthari wanted to send a message. The Vakthari representative, a tall creature with too many arms, made a gesture that the translator interpreted as a dismissive wave. The humans were given warning. They chose not to comply. The consequences were regrettable, but necessary. Park Mina turned to look at him. "Necessary? You murdered millions to steal our worlds. We offered you a choice," the Vakthari said. 5 worlds in exchange for peace. That is generous. We could have demanded more. The council speaker, an ancient being whose species had helped found the council 10,000 years ago, raised a hand for silence. "Ambassador Park, we understand your anger, but the council has always resolved conflicts through negotiation. We have maintained peace for 4,000 years through dialogue and compromise." "Compromise?" Park Mina's voice rose. You want us to compromise with murderers? We want to prevent more bloodshed, the speaker said gently. The Vakthari have agreed to reduce their demands. Only 3 colony worlds now. And they offer reparations for the unfortunate incident at Haven Station. 1. Unfortunate incident, Parkmina repeated. She looked around the chamber. That's what you're calling genocide? An unfortunate incident? The speaker sighed. Ambassador, please. We have procedures for these situations. Mediation has always worked before. How many times? Commander Choi Daeho stepped forward. He was Parkmina's military advisor, a man who had spent 30 years studying galactic history. How many times have the Vakthari attacked someone? And you mediated? The chamber fell silent. 14 times, Choi Daeho said. I looked it up. 14 different species over the past 200 years. Each time, the Vakthari attacked. Each time, the council mediated. Each time, the Vakthari paid small reparations and promised to behave. And each time, they eventually did it again. He pulled up a hologram showing names and dates. Attack after attack. Mediation after mediation. A pattern that stretched back centuries. You didn't keep the peace, Choi Daeho said. You just delayed the fighting. And while you delayed, the Vakthari kept killing people. The council chamber erupted in arguments. Some representatives defended their policies. Others demanded to see Choi Daeho's evidence. The Vakthari representative shouted about human arrogance. Parkmina waited for the noise to die down. Then she spoke again, her voice cutting through the chaos. The Vakthari have offered us terms, she said. They want 3 colonies and some money in exchange for the lives of 2 million people. She paused. Our answer is no. The chamber went silent. We do not negotiate with murderers, Parkmina continued. We will accept nothing less than unconditional surrender. Every Vakthari officer involved in the attack on Haven Station will stand trial for genocide. They have 72 hours to comply. The speaker stood. Ambassador, you cannot be serious. Are you threatening war? We're not threatening anything, Parkmina said. We're stating facts. The Vakthari committed an act of genocide. They will face justice. If they refuse, we will make them face justice. It's very simple. The council will not support military action, the speaker said firmly. We forbid it. Parkmina looked at him. Then stay out of our way. She turned and walked out of the chamber. Choi Daeho followed her, along with the rest of the human delegation. Behind them, the council erupted into chaos. On the Times Eternal Spring asterisk, Captain Taeyong received a priority message from Earth. He read it twice, making sure he understood correctly. Then he called his crew together. Haven Station is gone, he said. The council wants us to negotiate with the people who killed our friends and families. Our government has refused. He looked around at the faces of his crew. Good people. People who had joined the space service to explore and discover. Not to fight. War is coming, Taeyong said. Anyone who wants to transfer to a civilian vessel can do so. No questions asked. No judgment. Nobody moved. His first officer smiled grimly. With respect, Captain, we're already at war. We just haven't started shooting back yet. Taeyong nodded. Then let's go home. We have work to do. The Times Eternal Spring Times turned toward Earth, its engines burning bright in the darkness. Across human space, the same scene played out on 1,000 ships. Civilians going home. Military vessels moving into position. Shipyards that had been building exploration vessels quietly switching to different blueprints. The Vakthari thought they had given humanity a simple choice. Submit or die. They were about to learn that humans always found a third option. Admiral Kang Hyun-woo had not slept in 3 days. He stood in the command center deep beneath the surface of Earth, surrounded by screens showing every human ship and station in the galaxy. Officers worked at their stations around him, their faces lit by the glow of their displays. The 72-hour deadline had passed 6 hours ago. Status report, Kang said. His second in command, a woman named Commander Lim Unji, pulled up a tactical display. All civilian evacuations complete. Every colony world has their populations in shelters. Defense platforms are active and waiting for your command. And the fleet? Ready, sir. All vessels are in position. Kang nodded slowly. For 50 years, humanity had been part of the Galactic Council. They had played by the rules, built trading ships and science vessels, explored peacefully, and made friends with other species. But humans had learned long ago that peace only lasted when you could defend it. Activate Defense Protocol 7, Kang said. Across human space, things began to change. On the orbital stations above Earth, large panels slid open. What the galaxy had thought were commercial docking bays revealed themselves to be something else entirely. Launch tubes, weapons, platforms, defense grids that had been hidden in plain sight for decades. In the asteroid belt, rocks that had been registered as mining facilities suddenly powered up. Engines flared to life. Weapons systems came online. Each mining station was actually a mobile fortress, camouflaged and waiting. Near the outer colonies, shipyards that built cargo vessels opened their hidden sections. Inside, different ships waited. Warships. Hundreds of them, built in secret over 30 years. The galaxy had thought humanity was peaceful. They were wrong. Humanity had simply been prepared. Dr. Shin Ji-won watched her life's work come to fruition from the research station on Mars. She had spent 20 years designing these ships. 20 years that she had hoped would be wasted effort. 20 years of preparation for a war she prayed would never come. Haven Station had ended those prayers. Project Prometheus is active, her assistant said. All vessels are reporting green status. Shin Ji-won looked at the designs on her screen. Humanity had studied every war in galactic history. They had learned from species that had deleted their own military records out of shame. They had taken the lessons of 10,000 years of conflict and built something the modern galaxy had forgotten was possible. Ships designed for only one purpose: winning battles. No luxury quarters, no diplomatic suites, no observation decks or research labs. Just engines, weapons, armor, and the systems needed to operate them. Every ton of weight was dedicated to combat capability. The Vakthari had maintained a military. But their ships were designed to intimidate weak opponents, to strike fast against unarmed targets, and retreat if they met resistance. Humanity had designed ships to fight other warships, to hunt down enemies and destroy them completely, to turn battle into mathematics, and mathematics into victory. Send the activation codes, Shin Ji-won said quietly, and may we never have to use them again after this. Captain Lee Tae-yang commanded one of those warships now. The Times, Righteous Fury Times, was smaller than his old exploration vessel, but it moved like a predator. Fast, agile, deadly. He sat in the combat chair, surrounded by his tactical team. They were young, most of them. They had trained for this, but none of them had ever fought a real battle. All ships report ready, his tactical officer said. Park Hee-jin was barely 25, but she had the highest simulation scores in the fleet. We're waiting on your order, Captain. Tae-young pulled up the tactical display. The Vakthari had a forward command station 3 jumps from human space. Intelligence said it coordinated their fleet movements for this entire sector. Destroying it would blind them and buy humanity time to mobilize fully. Signal the fleet, Tae-young said. All ships jump in 60 seconds. Attack pattern Delta. No mercy. No mercy, Hee-jin repeated, entering the commands. The countdown began. Tae-young watched the numbers drop. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency. They knew what was coming. They knew some of them might not survive, but they also knew what happened to Haven Station. 2 million people who never got a chance to fight back. Today, humanity would fight back. The timer hit 0. Space tore open as 12 human warships dropped out of hyperspace directly on top of the Vakthari command station. The Vakthari had expected humanity to mass their forces and come at them slowly. They expected negotiations to drag on for weeks while the council tried to mediate. They expected humans to be afraid. What they got was a knife to the throat. Taeyang's ship fired first. Railguns spat metal at a fraction of light speed. Missiles streaked through space. Energy weapons carved through Vakthari shields like they were paper. The Vakthari returned fire. But their targeting systems couldn't track human ships. The human vessels moved like they were alive, weaving and dodging with computer-assisted precision. What few shots hit human shields simply bounced off. Humanity had spent decades studying Vakthari weapons. They knew exactly how to counter them. Target their command deck, Taeyang ordered. Make it quick. The Time's righteous fury times rolled, brought all weapons to bear, and fired. The Vakthari command station's central tower exploded in a ball of fire. Around them, the rest of the human fleet was tearing apart Vakthari escorts. It wasn't a battle. It was an execution. 11 minutes after the attack began, it was over. The Vakthari forward command was gone. 40% of their local fleet was destroyed. The survivors were running. Taeyang sat back in his chair, breathing hard. His hands were shaking. Damage report, he said. Minor hull damage on 3 ships, Heijin reported. No casualties. We won. Taeyang nodded slowly. They had won. But there was no joy in it. Just grim satisfaction and the knowledge that this was only the beginning. Set course for the rally point, he said. And send a message to Admiral Kang. Tell him the Vakthari know. We're coming now. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council received news of the battle with shock. Councillor Rethmar, one of the few members who had voted to support humanity's demand for justice, watched the footage with growing concern. The battle had been too fast, too efficient, too brutal. The human ships moved with a precision that spoke of decades of planning. Their tactics showed a deep understanding of warfare that the peaceful galaxy had forgotten. This wasn't a military cobbled together in desperate haste. This was a war machine that had been quietly preparing for exactly this scenario. Rethmar sent a private message to the Vakthari High Command. Surrender now. You attacked the wrong species. The response came back 3 hours later. We have 600 worlds. They have 47. Simple mathematics. We will crush them. Rethmar deleted the message and sent another one to his homeworld. Begin defensive preparations. If the Vakthari lose this war, the balance of power in the galaxy will shift. We need to be ready for what comes next. On Earth, Admiral Kang Hyunwoo received Captain Taeyang's report and allowed himself a small smile. The first strike had gone exactly as planned. Now came the hard part. Commander Lim, he said. Activate the full fleet. Send orders to all colonial forces. We're going to war. Yes, sir. What's our objective? Kang pulled up a star map showing Vakthari space. 600 worlds, thousands of ships. An empire that had dominated this region of space for 1,000 years. Total victory, Kang said simply. The Vakthari wanted to teach us fear. Instead, we're going to teach them why every human culture had a word for war crime. Because we know exactly where the line is. And we know exactly what happens to those who cross it. He highlighted targets on the map. Military stations, fleet bases, shipyards, every piece of Vakthari military infrastructure. They wanted a demonstration, Kang continued. We'll give them one. But ours will be about justice, not terror. We don't target civilians. We don't destroy homes. We dismantle their military completely and drag every officer involved in Haven Station to trial. And if they don't surrender? Lim asked. Kang's expression hardened. Then we keep going until they have nothing left to fight with. However long it takes. Orders went out. The human fleet mobilized. Across 47 worlds, billions of humans watched and waited. The Vakthari had thought they were attacking a peaceful species. Weak, easily intimidated, they had attacked humanity at its most dangerous. United angry, and absolutely certain of the righteousness of its cause. The war had begun, and the galaxy was about to learn what happened when you murdered human children and expected their parents to negotiate. 3 months into the war, Commander Choi Daeho crouched in the shadows of a Vakthari government building on the world of Rakthar Prime. Rain hammered down around him, hissing against his armor's stealth coating. Behind him, 20 special operations soldiers waited for his signal. This wasn't the kind of war the galaxy understood. There were no grand fleet battles every day, no dramatic speeches before each engagement. Instead, humanity fought with cold precision. Choi Daeho had studied human history extensively. Every war, every tactic, every mistake. He knew that wars weren't won by glorious charges. They were won by breaking the enemy's ability to fight. Their logistics, their communications, their will. Target acquired, his second whispered through the comm. 3 Vakthari military coordinators inside. Minimal security. Choi nodded. Remember the rules of engagement. Military targets only. Verify identity before firing. If civilians are present, we abort. His team confirmed understanding. These weren't the Vakthari. Humanity would not become the monster they were fighting. Move in. They flowed through the building like ghosts. Vakthari guards never saw them coming. Stun weapons dropped the guards silently. No killing, unless absolutely necessary. Within 5 minutes, Choi's team had secured 3 high-ranking Vakthari officers and a data core containing fleet coordination protocols. But more importantly, they had something else. Found it, his tech specialist said, holding up a data chip. Complete records of the Haven Station attack. Orders, communications, everything. Choi smiled grimly. Good. Now let's broadcast it. Across the Vakthari homeworld, every screen suddenly showed the same thing. The actual communications from the Haven Station attack. Vakthari commanders laughing as they ordered the bombardment, discussing how many humans they would kill, calling it a demonstration, and teaching the animals their place. The Vakthari civilian population had been told the attack was a military necessity. That Haven Station was a weapons platform threatening Vakthari space. That humanity had fired first. Now they knew the truth. By morning, protests had erupted on 17 Vakthari worlds. The government tried to shut them down, but the message was out. Humans hadn't started this war. Humans hadn't killed first. The Vakthari had murdered millions and lied about it. Ambassador Park Mina coordinated these operations from a command ship in neutral space. She had always been a diplomat, but war had changed her role. Now she fought with information instead of weapons. Her screen showed resistance movements across Vakthari space. Not human resistance. Alien resistance. Species the Vakthari had conquered centuries ago and ruled through fear. The Torvani uprising has secured 3 industrial worlds, her intelligence officer reported. The Meklar resistance is requesting weapons and training. Park Mina studied the reports. The Vakthari Empire was fracturing. Centuries of oppression had created wounds that humanity's war had torn wide open. Subject species saw humanity fighting back successfully and asked themselves, why couldn't they? Approve the Meklar request, Park Mina said. Send them advisors, weapons, medical supplies, everything they need. Some council members are calling this interference in internal Vakthari affairs, her aide warned. Park Mina laughed bitterly. The Vakthari interfered in human affairs by killing 2 million of us. I think we're entitled to a little interference of our own. She opened a communication channel to the Meklar resistance leader. The alien appeared on screen, their translation device rendering their speech into human language. Ambassador Park, we received your message. Is it true? You will help us gain freedom? It's true, Park Mina said. We can't give you freedom. That's something you have to take for yourselves. But we can give you the tools to take it. And when this is over, we'll make sure the galaxy recognizes your independence. The Meklar leader made a gesture of gratitude. Why? Why help us? Because the galaxy spent 10,000 years letting bullies do whatever they wanted as long as they said sorry afterward, Park Mina replied. That ends now. No more appeasement. No more looking away while the strong prey on the weak. She ended the transmission and turned to her staff. Send the same offer to every resistance movement in Vakthari space. Freedom in exchange for fighting. And make sure they know we keep our promises. On the military front, Captain Li Taeyang was learning that war wasn't about glory. It was about grinding work and constant vigilance. His ship had been in combat 43 times in 3 months. Most weren't dramatic battles. They were quick strikes against Vakthari supply convoys, raids on communication stations, harassment operations that kept the enemy off balance. The Vakthari fleet was still larger than humanity's. But size didn't matter when you couldn't coordinate your forces. Targets acquired, his tactical officer Park Hae-jin reported. Vakthari supply convoy, carrying military equipment to their forward bases. Taeyang studied the tactical display. 6 transport ships with 2 escort destroyers. Standard Vakthari convoy formation. Do we have positive identification? No civilian vessels? Confirmed military, Captain. Transponders match their naval registry. Then light them up. The attack was over in minutes. Vakthari escorts tried to fight back, but human weapons had longer range and better accuracy. The convoy was destroyed before it could call for help. As Taeyang's ship jumped away, his communications officer picked up something unusual. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission. It's from a Vakthari escape pod. Put it through. A Vakthari officer appeared on screen. His scales were scorched, and one of his 4 eyes was swollen shut. Human vessel. This is Commander Vekthar, of the transport ship Glorious Venture. I wish to surrender. Taeyang blinked in surprise. This was the first time a Vakthari had tried to surrender to him. Surrender accepted, Taeyang said carefully. Prepare to be taken aboard. As his crew processed the prisoner, Taeyang interviewed the Vakthari commander personally. Why surrender? Taeyang asked. Your government says you're winning. Vekthar made a sound the translator interpreted as bitter laughter. Winning? We've lost 40% of our fleet. Half our subject species are in open rebellion. Our own civilians are protesting in the streets. The only people who think we're winning are the High Command. And they're insane. Then why not surrender? The whole empire? Because the High Command would rather see the empire burn than admit they were wrong, Vekthar said. They started this war over pride. They told everyone, you were weak, that you would surrender after one demonstration. Now they can't admit they made a mistake without losing all their power. Taeyang considered this. What about you? Why did you attack Haven Station? Vekthar's scales darkened. I wasn't there. I was assigned to logistics. But I saw the orders afterward. I saw what they did. What my people did. He looked up at Taeyang. I have younglings, children. When I saw the footage of Haven Station, I thought about them. What if someone did that to them? What would I want done to the people responsible? What would you want? Taeyang asked quietly. Justice, Vekthar said. Real justice. Not appeasement. Not reparations. Actual consequences for actual crimes. Taeyang nodded slowly. That's what we're fighting for. I know, Vekthar said. That's why I surrendered. The conversation stayed with Taeyang for days. The Vakthari weren't all monsters. Many were just following orders. Some were even starting to question those orders. But the ones who gave the orders, the ones who had laughed while murdering millions, they would face justice. Admiral Kang Hyunwoo received Taeyang's report about the surrendering Vakthari and added it to his intelligence files. It confirmed what his analysts had been saying. The Vakthari Empire was crumbling from within, but the High Command wasn't surrendering. Instead, they were getting desperate. Sir, Commander Lim said urgently, we've detected massive energy signatures in Vakthari core space. They're activating something big. Ground, Well, well. Kang felt his stomach drop. Show me. The display showed a Vakthari dreadnought, 10 times the size of any ship humanity had built, and mounted on its hull was a weapon that made Kang's blood run cold. Planetary destruction device, his weapons specialist confirmed. Pre-council technology. Illegal under every treaty. But it works. Target? Kang asked, though he already knew. They're broadcasting a message to the colony world of New Busan. Surrender or be destroyed. Kang looked at the numbers. New Busan had 4 million people. The dreadnought was 2 days away. And the human fleet was scattered across Vakthari space, hunting their forces. The nearest human ships could reach New Busan in 30 hours. They would be outnumbered and outgunned. The dreadnought had escorts and enough firepower to destroy any normal attack force. Get me Captain Taeyang, Kang said. And every ship within 3 days of New Busan. We're going to stop that dreadnought. Sir, the casualties. I know, Kang said quietly. But we don't abandon our people. Ever. That's the difference between us and them. Orders went out. Across space, human ships changed course toward New Busan. They knew what awaited them. They went anyway, because that's what humans did. They protected their own. The Vakthari dreadnought emerged from hyperspace above New Busan like a dark moon. Captain Lee Taeyang watched it on his tactical display and felt his heart sink. The thing was massive, bigger than some of the asteroids in Earth's belt, and it had enough firepower to crack a planet. All ships report ready, Park Hee-jin said from her station. Her voice was steady. But Taeyang could see her hands shaking slightly. We have 17 vessels. The dreadnought has 40 escorts. 17 against 40. And they had to protect a planet full of civilians while doing it. Have they responded to our hails? Taeyang asked. Yes, sir. The Vakthari commander says they will hold fire if New Busan surrenders unconditionally within the hour. Otherwise. She didn't finish the sentence. Taeyang pulled up the evacuation status for New Busan. Colonel Han Soman on the surface was doing her best. But there wasn't enough time. Maybe they could save a few 100,000. But 4 million people couldn't be evacuated in an hour. Open a channel to the Vakthari commander, Taeyang said. The screen showed a Vakthari with elaborate markings on his scales. Supreme Commander Karvok, according to the intelligence files. 1. Of the Vakthari High Command. One of the ones who had ordered the Haven Station massacre. Human vessel, Karvok said. You are outmatched. Withdraw. And we will spare your ships. And if we don't, Taeyang asked, then you die with the colonists. Your choice is simple. Taeyang looked at the tactical display again. 17 ships against 40, plus a dreadnought. The mathematics were brutal. But mathematics didn't account for everything. We're not withdrawing, Taeyang said, and you're not destroying that planet. Karvok's scales rippled with what the translator interpreted as amusement. Bold words for someone about to die. Very well. When your ships are destroyed, remember, you chose this. The channel closed. All ships, Taeyang said on the fleet channel. Attack pattern Omega. Protect the planet at all costs. His small fleet moved to intercept. The Vakthari escorts spread out to meet them. It was going to be a slaughter, and everyone knew it. Then space tore open. Ship after ship dropped out of hyperspace around New Busan. But they weren't human ships. They were alien vessels. Dozens of them. Hundreds of them. Taeyang stared in shock at his display. What? Incoming transmission, Hee-jin said. It's from the lead alien ship. The screen showed a Meklar. One of the species humanity had been helping in their resistance. The alien's translator rendered their words with crystal clarity. Captain Taeyang. We heard humanity was in trouble. We came to help. More ships dropped out of hyperspace. Torvani vessels, Belkari warships, Catherine fighters. Every species humanity had supported in their fight against Vakthari oppression. You freed us, the Meklar commander said. Now we fight for you. Taeyang felt something catch in his throat. He couldn't speak for a moment. The Vakthari had assumed no one would help humanity. After all, the Galactic Council had condemned human military action. The peaceful species thought humans were too violent. But the species humans had liberated? They understood. Humanity had stood up for them when no one else would. Now, they returned the favor. Thank you, Taeyang finally managed to say. All ships. Coordinate attack. Take out those escorts. The battle that followed was chaos. Alien ships that had never fought together before had to coordinate on the fly. But they had one advantage. They were fighting for something they believed in. Freedom. Justice. The idea that some things were worth fighting for. The Vakthari escorts broke under the combined assault. What should have been an easy victory turned into a desperate retreat. Within an hour, 30 of the 40 escorts were destroyed, or surrendering. But the dreadnought remained, and it was powering up its planet-killer weapon. Estimate 10 minutes to full charge, Heijin reported. Captain, we can't penetrate its shields with our weapons. Taeyang looked at the massive vessel. They couldn't break through its defenses in time. Even with all their allies, the dreadnought was too powerful. He made a decision. All ships, evacuate crew via emergency transport, Taeyang ordered. Then set ramming course for the dreadnought. His bridge crew looked at him in shock. Sir, you can't mean, Heijin started. We can't destroy it with weapons, Taeyang said calmly. But 3 ships hitting it at relativistic speeds will crack it like an egg. Evacuate the crew. We save the ship's computers to pilot them. Captain, there's not enough time to evacuate everyone, his first officer protested. Then we do what we can, Taeyang said. He looked around at his crew. I'm not ordering anyone to stay. But I need volunteers to make sure the ships hit their target. To make sure 4 million people down there get to live. Every hand on the bridge went up. Of course they did. They were human. The evacuation was chaos. Transport beams pulled crew members off the 3 sacrificial ships, even as they accelerated toward the dreadnought. Taeyang stood on his bridge with a skeleton crew of volunteers, watching the massive enemy vessel grow larger on the screen. All crew evacuated except us, Heijin reported. She had refused to leave. So had 6 others. Transport is standing by for us. Wait for my mark, Taeyang said. We need to make sure the course is locked. The dreadnought fired at them. But the human ships were moving too fast now. Too committed to their course. On the Vakthari vessel, Taeyang could see emergency thrusters firing, trying to move the massive ship out of the way. Too late. Now! Taeyang shouted. Transport now! The bridge dissolved around him. He felt the familiar sensation of emergency transport. Then, he was materializing on a Meklar rescue ship, his crew appearing beside him. Through the viewport, he watched 3 human warships slam into the Vakhtari dreadnought at a significant fraction of light speed. The explosion lit up space like a new star. When the light faded, the dreadnought was gone. Just debris and radiation where it had been. 4 million people on New Busan were safe. On Earth, Admiral Kang Hyunwoo watched the battle reports with mixed emotions. They had won. New Busan was saved. But 3 good ships were destroyed. And it had only been possible because other species had helped them. Then came the real shock. Sir, Commander Lim said. We're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. The council speaker appeared on screen, looking older and more tired than Kang remembered. Admiral Kang. The council has reviewed the evidence of Vakthari aggression. We have also reviewed Commander Choi's historical data on past Vakthari attacks. After much debate, the council has reached a decision. Kang waited. The council votes to authorize military intervention against the Vakthari Empire, the speaker said. For the first time in 10,000 years, the council will go to war. Minasa. Kang felt shock ripple through him. Speaker. Why now? Because we were wrong. The speaker said simply. We thought we had achieved peace. But we had only achieved the appearance of peace. We mediated conflicts without addressing root causes. We accepted apologies without demanding justice. We enabled oppressors by always offering them a way out. The speaker looked directly at the camera. Your species reminded us that peace without justice is just delayed violence. That some things cannot be negotiated away. That accountability matters. 1. We should have learned this lesson when the Vakthari attacked the Torvani 70 years ago, the speaker continued. Or the Belkari, 90 years before that. Instead, we waited until they murdered 2 million humans. We are ashamed. And we will do better. The transmission ended. Kang sat in silence for a long moment. Then he started laughing. Not from joy, but from the sheer absurdity of it all. It had taken the near destruction of a human colony to make the galaxy remember that evil needed to be confronted, not accommodated. Orders, sir? Lim asked. Kang pulled up the tactical display. With the Council's forces joining the fight, the balance of power had shifted dramatically. The Vakthari were now hopelessly outnumbered. Signal all human forces, Kang said. Begin final offensive operations. Target all remaining Vakthari military infrastructure. And send a message to the Vakthari High Command. What message, sir? Unconditional surrender, trial for all war criminals, full reparations to every species they've attacked. They have 24 hours to comply. He paused. And if they refuse, we continue until they have nothing left to fight with. The message was sent. Across Vakthari space, the remaining military forces received it. Many surrendered immediately. Others fought on out of loyalty or fear. Supreme Commander Karvok, his flagship crippled and drifting, sat in his command chair and laughed bitterly. We offered them peace, he said to his officers. We only wanted 5 worlds. Then 3. We were generous. Sir, we should surrender. One of his subordinates said quietly. The war is lost. No, Karvok said. We taught them fear. We showed them our power. They should have submitted. They didn't fear us, another officer said. They hated us. There's a difference. Karvok looked at the tactical display showing combined human and council forces closing in from all sides. He had started this war expecting an easy victory. A quick demonstration of force, followed by grateful submission. Instead, he had awakened something the galaxy had forgotten existed. A species that remembered how to fight. That understood that some things were worth fighting for. And now that species was coming for him. 3 months after the Battle of New Busan, Ambassador Park Mina stood in the council chamber once more. But this time, she wasn't alone. Behind her stood representatives from 14 different species, all of them victims of Vakhtari aggression over the past 2 centuries. In the center of the chamber, in specially constructed containment fields, stood Supreme Commander Karvok and 847 other Vakthari officers. Every single one of them had been involved in the Haven Station massacre or other atrocities. The Galactic Council had wanted to conduct the trials themselves, to take control of the process and show the galaxy they could deliver justice. Humanity had said no. The Council had 200 years to hold them accountable. Park Mina had told the speaker. You chose mediation every time. This tribunal will be administered jointly, with representatives from every victim species. Or, there will be no tribunal at all. The Council, chastened by their own failures, had agreed. Now the trials began. Captain Li Taeyang sat in the observation gallery, watching the proceedings. Next to him was Yoon Hana, one of the few survivors from Haven Station. She had lost her entire family in the attack. Her parents, her 2 younger brothers, her grandmother. She had volunteered to give testimony. The prosecutor, a human lawyer named Kim Junho, stood before the tribunal judges. The judges were a mix of species, carefully selected to be impartial. 3 humans, 3 council members, 3 representatives from liberated Vakthari subject species. We are here, Kim Junho began. Because on the 15th day of the third standard month, Vakthari forces deliberately and without provocation destroyed Haven Station. 2.1 million sentient beings died in that attack. Not soldiers. Not military personnel. Civilians. Families. Children. He pulled up a holographic display showing Haven Station before the attack. People walking through parks, children playing, markets full of life. Then he showed the after. Just debris and bodies floating in space. The Vakthari have claimed this was a military action, Kim continued. That Haven Station posed a threat. We will prove, beyond any doubt, that this was premeditated genocide. An act of terror designed to force submission through fear. Over the next week, the prosecution presented evidence, communications between Vakthari commanders planning the attack, discussions of civilian casualties as acceptable demonstration effects, debates about how many deaths would be sufficient to terrify humanity into surrender. Supreme Commander Karvok sat in his containment field, his scales dull and lifeless. He said nothing, offered no defense, just stared ahead as the evidence mounted. Then came the witness testimony. Yoon Hana walked to the stand. She was 23 years old. She had been an engineering student on Haven Station. Now she was one of only 47 survivors from a population of 2 million. Tell us what you remember, Kim Junho said gently. Hana spoke in a clear, steady voice. I was in the engineering section when the alerts went off. We didn't know what was happening at first. Then I saw the Vakthari ships on the monitors. They were surrounding the station. She paused, gathering herself. My mother called me. She was at home with my family, she said. Hana's voice cracked slightly. She said to tell her she loved me, that everything would be okay. She was lying. She knew what was about to happen. What happened next? Kim asked quietly. The weapons fired. I saw the energy readings spike. I ran for the emergency pods. I could hear people screaming. The station was breaking apart around me. I made it to a pod and launched just as my section exploded. She looked directly at Karvok. I watched Haven Station die from my pod. I watched 2 million people, including everyone I loved, get vaporized. And you know what the worst part was? Karvok said nothing. The Vakthari were broadcasting their attack, Hana continued. They wanted everyone to see. They were proud of what they did. They thought they were teaching us a lesson. Oth, she stood up straighter. Well, we learned. We learned that some people only understand one language. We learned that the galaxy's peace was built on letting monsters like you do whatever you wanted. We learned that if we wanted justice, we had to take it ourselves. The testimony continued for days. Survivor after survivor. Victim after victim. Not just from Haven Station, but from all the Vakthari attacks over the centuries. The Torvani, the Belkari, the Meklar. Every species the Vakthari had terrorized. The evidence was overwhelming. Finally, after 2 months of testimony, the tribunal reached its verdict. The head judge, a counselor from a species renowned for their wisdom, read the decision. On all counts of genocide, crimes against sapient beings, and violations of galactic law, this tribunal finds the defendants guilty. The gallery erupted. Some people cheered. Others wept. Hana simply closed her eyes and let out a long breath. She felt like she'd been holding for months, but the sentencing was still to come. Many in the human population wanted execution. The Vakthari had murdered millions. They deserved death in return. Ambassador Park Mina stood before the tribunal to deliver humanity's official position on sentencing. We could execute them, she said. Many of our people want that. And I understand why. These individuals are responsible for unimaginable suffering. She looked at the prisoners. But we are not here for revenge. We are here for justice. And justice means accountability, not just punishment. She outlined humanity's proposal. Life imprisonment for all convicted war criminals. but not in comfortable cells. They would work to rebuild what they had destroyed. All their labor would go toward reparations for victim families and liberated species. They will live with what they've done, Park Mina said. Every day, for the rest of their lives, they will see the faces of their victims. They will work to repair the damage they caused, and they will never be allowed to forget. She paused. We don't negotiate with murderers. But we also don't become them. We show the galaxy what accountability looks like. Real accountability. Not apologies, and reparations, and business as usual, but actual consequences for actual crimes. The tribunal accepted the proposal. The sentences were handed down. Supreme Commander Karvok finally spoke as they led him away. You think this is justice? He said to Park Mina. Making us work like slaves? No. Park Mina replied. Justice would be giving the families of your victims 5 minutes alone with you. This is mercy. Be grateful. The Vakthari Empire collapsed over the following months. Without their military, and with their government in disgrace, the subject species declared independence. The Council recognized each new nation and helped them establish stable governments. Commander Choi Daeho worked with these new nations to build their own defense forces, small, sufficient for self-defense, but enough that they would never be conquered again. The galaxy forgot that peace requires vigilance, Choi told the Meklar defense minister. You can't assume everyone will be peaceful just because you are. You need to be able to defend yourselves. The new nations learned. They built fleets, trained soldiers, established mutual defense pacts. The galaxy was changing. Admiral Kang Hyunwoo oversaw the demobilization of humanity's war fleet. The massive warships were being converted to other purposes or mothballed. Project Prometheus was shut down. The hidden bases were dismantled, but not destroyed. Just placed in reserve. We built these hoping never to use them, Kang said at the decommissioning ceremony for the Times Righteous Fury *. We used them hoping never to build more, but we'll keep the knowledge, the capability. Because peace isn't maintained by hoping everyone will be nice. Captain Lee Taeyang, promoted to admiral for his actions at New Busan, took command of the new peacekeeping fleet. A joint force of humans and allied species, dedicated to preventing another haven station. We're not conquerors, Taeyang told his mixed species crew. We're protectors. We exist so that what happened to Haven Station, to the Torvani, to the Meklar, never happens again. The Galactic Council underwent massive reforms. Councillor Rethmar led the effort, working closely with humanity. The old council believed peace meant avoiding conflict at all costs, Rethmar said. We learned the hard way that peace requires confronting evil, not accommodating it. New protocols were established. Aggression would be met with immediate intervention, not endless mediation. Victim species would have a voice in any peace negotiations. A multi-species defense force would protect the vulnerable. The galaxy had remembered something it had tried to forget, that justice sometimes required force. 10 years after Haven Station's destruction, a memorial stood where the station had been. A massive structure holding the names of every victim. 2.1 million names, carved in stone, that would orbit the planet forever. Yoon Hana stood before the memorial, now in her 30s. She worked for the Council's Victim Advocacy Office, helping other survivors of atrocities find justice and healing. A young girl stood next to her, a child who had survived a recent pirate attack that the peacekeeping fleet had stopped. Why did they build such a big memorial? The girl asked. So we never forget, Hana said. So we remember what happens when good people look away from evil. So we remember that some things are worth fighting for. Like what? Like justice, Hana said. Like protecting the innocent. Like making sure that people who hurt others face consequences. The girl thought about this. My teacher says humans taught the galaxy how to fight again. That's not quite right, Hana corrected gently. We reminded the galaxy what fighting was for. Not for conquest. Not for power. but to protect those who can't protect themselves, to stand up to bullies, to make sure that when someone does something terrible, there are consequences. To force, she looked up at the memorial, seeing her family's names among the millions. The galaxy wanted us to negotiate with the people who killed my family, to accept apologies and move on, to let them pay some money and promise to be better. But you didn't? The girl asked. No, Hana said. We didn't negotiate with murderers. We demanded justice. And the galaxy learned that sometimes that's what peace requires. They stood in silence for a moment, looking at the names. Will there be another war? The girl asked quietly. Hana considered the question. Maybe. There are always people who think they can take what they want through force. But now the galaxy knows how to respond. We don't appease bullies anymore. We stop them. Good, the girl said firmly. Hana smiled. Across the galaxy, billions of beings lived in peace. Not the fragile peace of appeasement and looking away from injustice, but the harder, stronger peace of accountability and collective defense. The Vakthari had wanted to teach humanity fear. Instead, humanity had taught the galaxy something more important. That peace, without justice, was no peace at all. That some things couldn't be negotiated away. That accountability mattered. The galaxy had been stunned when humans refused to negotiate with murderers. Now they understood why, and they were better for it.